You are always cleaning after everyone. Do they even know your name?
The words echoed through the quiet hallway. The old security guard laughed as he spoke, but the man holding the mop only smiled. "I don't mind," he said softly. He picked up another piece of paper from the floor, dropped it into the trash, and continued working as if those words meant nothing. On the third floor, someone was watching. Her name was Mira. She was one of the youngest architects in the company, and for some reason, she couldn't stop thinking about the quiet janitor who smiled at everyone, even when nobody smiled back. The company where Mira worked was one of the biggest architectural firms in Lagos. Every day, people rushed through the tall glass doors carrying laptops, blueprints, and expensive coffee cups. Everyone seemed to be in a hurry. People greeted directors. They greeted managers. They greeted important clients. But almost nobody greeted the janitor. His name tag simply read, June. He arrived before sunrise. He left long after sunset. Every morning he swept the entrance, cleaned fingerprints from the glass walls, watered the plants, and emptied trash bins before anyone noticed they were full. Most people walked past him without looking. Some even dropped paper cups on the floor after he had just cleaned. He never complained. He simply bent down, picked them up, and smiled. Mira noticed everything. Maybe it was because she had grown up with a mother who always told her, "How people treat workers tells you what kind of heart they have." So every morning, she greeted him. "Good morning, June." His face always brightened. "Good morning, Miss Mira." One rainy Tuesday, Mira saw something that made her stop walking. A senior manager accidentally spilled hot coffee across the marble floor while talking on his phone. Without even saying sorry, the man looked at June. "You missed a spot." Then he walked away. June quietly grabbed a mop. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience." Mira frowned. He wasn't the one who spilled the coffee. Why was he apologizing? She walked over. "That wasn't your fault." June looked up with a gentle smile. "It's okay." "No, it isn't." He only smiled again. "There are many kinds of work, Miss Mira. Every job helps someone." She didn't know why those words stayed with her the whole day. That evening, as everyone rushed home before another heavy rain started, Mira realized she had forgotten an important folder. She hurried back upstairs. The office was almost empty. As she reached the lobby, she noticed June struggling to move a heavy box of cleaning supplies. Without thinking, she walked over. "Let me help." His eyes widened. "You don't have to." "I know." She picked up one side anyway. Together they carried it into a storage room. Inside, the shelves were neat. Everything was perfectly arranged. Even the cleaning cloths were folded with surprising care. "You really like keeping things organized," Mira said. June chuckled. "I've always believed small details matter." She laughed. "That's exactly what architects say." For the first time, June laughed too. It was a warm laugh that made him seem much younger than she had imagined. As they walked back out, the lights flickered. Thunder shook the building. The rain had become a storm. "You'll never find a taxi in this weather," Mira sighed. June looked outside. "I brought an umbrella. It won't fit both of us. It will if we don't mind getting a little wet." She laughed. "I guess I don't." The two stepped into the rain beneath the same umbrella. Employees driving past slowed down. Some stared through their car windows. One whispered, "Isn't that the architect walking home with the janitor?" Another laughed. "Maybe she's supervising the cleaning." Mira heard them. She ignored them. June pretended not to hear. Halfway to the bus stop, an elderly woman struggled with two heavy grocery bags. Without hesitation, June handed Mira the umbrella. One moment. He ran into the rain. He carried both bags all the way across the street for the woman. When he returned, he was completely soaked. "You didn't have to do that," Mira said. He smiled. "She reminded me of my grandmother." Something about the way he said it felt deeply sincere. The bus arrived. Before getting on, Mira turned back. "See you tomorrow, June." "See you tomorrow, Miss Mira." As the bus pulled away, she watched him through the rain-covered window. He wasn't heading toward the staff quarters where the cleaners usually stayed. Instead, he calmly walked in the opposite direction. A few minutes later, a sleek black car rolled quietly to the curb. A man in a dark suit stepped out, opened the rear door with great respect, and bowed slightly. June looked around to make sure no one was watching. Then he got into the luxury car. The vehicle disappeared into the night. From the bus window, Mira caught only a brief glimpse. She blinked. That couldn't have been June. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered that what she had seen was very real. And that was only the beginning. The next morning, Mira reached the office earlier than usual. She could not stop thinking about the black car. Maybe she had imagined it. Maybe it was someone who simply looked like June. Or maybe there was an explanation so simple that she was making a big deal out of nothing. As she stepped into the bright lobby, she saw him. June was already there, wiping the glass doors until they shone like mirrors. He looked exactly the same. Simple gray uniform. Old black shoes. A small name tag. Nothing about him suggested he had stepped into a luxury car the night before. He noticed her and smiled. "Good morning, Miss Mira." "Good morning, June." She wanted to ask him about the car. The question sat on the tip of her tongue. Instead, she smiled back. "You came in early." "I always do." He returned to cleaning as if nothing unusual had happened. Mira walked toward the elevators, but she glanced back one more time. June was helping an elderly visitor find the reception desk. He spoke gently, bowed politely, and waited until the woman was comfortable before returning to work. Most people would have simply pointed. June took the time to walk with her. That small act made Mira smile. Maybe kindness was simply who he was. Later that morning, the architecture team gathered for their weekly meeting. Their department manager, Adam, stood at the front of the room with rolled-up building plans. Adam was confident, smart, and respected by almost everyone in the company. He was also Myra's closest friend at work. "You all have 3 weeks," Adam said. "The chairman wants our best design yet." The room became quiet. Everyone knew the chairman owned several companies across Africa. No one had ever met him. Some people said he lived in Seoul. Others claimed he lived in Dubai. A few even believed he was too busy to visit Nigeria. Nobody knew the truth. The meeting ended, and everyone rushed back to work. As Mira walked toward her desk, Adam caught up with her. "You seem distracted." "I didn't sleep well." "Too much work." She hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Have you ever seen June outside work?" "The janitor?" "Yes." Adam shrugged. "Not really." "Doesn't anything about him seem unusual?" Adam laughed. "Besides being the nicest person in the building?" She smiled. "I guess." Adam lowered his voice. "You know, some people think he's strange." "Why?" "He never gossips. He never gets angry. And somehow, every security guard knows him by name." Mira frowned. "That's not strange." "It isn't." "No." Adam laughed again. "You always see the good in people." "I try." He smiled before walking away. During lunch break, the company cafeteria buzzed with conversation. Managers sat together. Designers sat together. Interns filled one corner. June sat alone near a window with a small lunchbox. Inside were plain rice, vegetables, and grilled fish. Nothing fancy. Mira carried her tray across the room. "Mind if I join you?" Several employees looked up in surprise. June nodded politely. "Please." For a few moments, they ate quietly. Then Mira noticed something. "Your lunch looks homemade." "It is." "Did you cook it?" "Yes." "You cook?" "A little." "A little," she laughed. "It smells amazing." June smiled shyly. "My grandmother taught me." "You must miss her." "Every day." His voice became softer. Mira changed the subject. "So, where do you live?" He took a sip of water. "Not too far." She smiled. "That sounds like you're avoiding the question." He laughed. "Maybe." Before she could ask anything else, a young cleaner rushed over. "Mr. June." The boy looked nervous. "I broke one of the expensive flower pots." June immediately stood. "Are you hurt?" The young man blinked. "No." "Then we'll solve the rest." I'm afraid they'll fire me." June placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Everyone makes mistakes. I'll talk to the supervisor." The young cleaner almost cried with relief. "Thank you." As they walked away together, Mira watched in silence. Most people would have worried about the broken pot. June's first question had been whether the boy was hurt. That spoke volumes. Later that afternoon, Mira stayed behind to finish a presentation. By 7 o'clock, almost everyone had gone home. She stretched and packed her laptop. As she walked through the nearly empty lobby, she heard music. Soft piano music. Curious, she followed the sound. It came from the company auditorium. The door was slightly open. She peeked inside. Her eyes widened. June was sitting alone at the grand piano. His fingers moved effortlessly across the keys. The beautiful melody filled the empty room. It sounded like something performed at a royal concert. Mira stood frozen. This wasn't someone pressing random keys. This was years of training. Grace. Precision. Emotion. June closed his eyes as he played, unaware anyone was listening. When the final note faded, Mira quietly clapped. June turned quickly, startled. "Oh, I didn't know anyone was here." He stood up immediately, looking embarrassed. "I'm sorry." "Sorry?" Mira asked. "That was beautiful." He smiled awkwardly. "I only play a little." She laughed. "If that's a little, then I'm a world-famous singer." For the first time since they met, June looked genuinely uncomfortable. He gently closed the piano lid. "It helps me think." "Where did you learn?" "My grandmother insisted." "She must have been proud of you." A quiet smile appeared on his face. "I hope so." Before Mira could ask another question, his phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen. For the first time, his calm expression changed. He quickly silenced the phone without answering. But Mira had caught one small detail. The caller ID didn't show a name. It showed only one word. Chairman. June slipped the phone back into his pocket as if nothing had happened. Myra's heart skipped a beat. Why would a building janitor receive a call from someone simply saved as chairman? Mira stood still. Her eyes stayed on June's pocket long after he had put the phone away. Maybe she had read it wrong. Maybe it had said chairman's office. Maybe it was someone joking with him. There had to be a simple answer. June noticed the puzzled look on her face. "Is everything okay?" he asked gently. Mira forced a smile. "Yes, I was just thinking." He nodded. "I should finish locking up." "Of course." She picked up her laptop bag and walked toward the door. Halfway outside, she stopped. She almost turned back to ask him about the phone. Instead, she whispered to herself, "Mind your own business, Mira." The words sounded sensible, but her curiosity only grew stronger. The next morning, the office was busier than usual. Employees hurried from one department to another. Fresh flowers decorated the reception area. New banners were being hung near the elevators. Even the security guards wore freshly pressed uniforms. Mira looked around in surprise. "What's going on?" Adam walked over carrying a stack of files. "You didn't hear?" "Hear what?" "The annual company dinner is next month." "Oh, the biggest event of the year." "I've never attended." Adam smiled. "That's because last year you had just joined us." He leaned closer. "Rumor says the company owner might actually attend this year." Mira laughed. "I thought nobody had ever seen him." "Exactly. That's why everyone is excited." One designer walked past them and joined the conversation. "I heard he's very strict." Another shook her head. "My cousin said he's incredibly handsome." Someone else laughed. "I heard he's almost 60. "No," another employee argued. "I heard he's only in his 30s. The entire office seemed full of stories. Nobody knew which one was true. Adam shrugged. "Whoever he is, he signs all our paychecks." Everyone laughed. Only Mira remained quiet. Without meaning to, her eyes searched the lobby. June was polishing the handrails. Completely calm. Completely ordinary. Around noon, heavy rain began pouring outside. Employees gathered near the windows to watch the storm. Suddenly, the lights flickered. 1 second later, everything went dark. The entire building lost power. A few people screamed. Others pulled out their phones. Emergency lights switched on, filling the hallways with a soft yellow glow. The elevators stopped. Reception phones went silent. The office became unusually quiet. Then someone shouted, There's a child trapped in elevator 3. People rushed toward the elevators. A client had brought his little daughter to the office earlier that morning. Now she was stuck inside. Her frightened cries echoed through the hallway. "Mommy, I don't want to stay here." Her mother was crying. "Please, somebody help her." Several employees pressed the emergency buttons over and over. Nothing happened. The maintenance team had not yet arrived. Panic spread quickly. Then June stepped forward. His voice remained calm. "Everyone, please move back." Some managers frowned. What can a janitor do? But June ignored the comment. He knelt beside the elevator control panel. He carefully opened a small emergency compartment. His hands moved with surprising confidence. He spoke softly through the elevator door. "My name is June. I'm right here. You are safe. Can you hear me?" The little girl sniffled. "Why, yes. Good. I need you to keep talking to me. Tell me your favorite color." "Pink. Pink. That's my favorite too." The little girl giggled through her tears. The crowd exchanged surprised looks. Within seconds, she had stopped crying. While keeping her talking, June gave quiet instructions to the security guards. "Bring the manual release key. Call emergency maintenance again. Tell them elevator 3. His voice was calm. Clear. Almost. Practiced. 5 minutes later, the maintenance team arrived. They looked surprised to see the emergency compartment already opened. One technician stared at June. "You already checked the override?" June nodded. "It should release once you reset the brake." The technician blinked. "That's exactly right." Less than 2 minutes later, the elevator doors opened. The little girl ran into her mother's arms. The hallway burst into applause. Employees cheered. Some even clapped for June. He simply bowed his head. "I'm glad she's safe." Then, before anyone could praise him further, he quietly picked up his mop. There was muddy water on the floor from people rushing through the lobby. Without another word, he began cleaning it. Mira watched him in disbelief. Most people would have enjoyed the attention. June acted as if saving the frightened child was just another part of his day. That evening, Mira stayed late again. As she packed her things, she realized she had left her sketchbook in the conference room. She hurried back. The hallway was almost empty. As she reached the corner, she heard voices. She stopped. One voice belonged to June. The other belonged to Mr. Bello, the company's oldest board member. Mira frowned. Why would a board member be speaking privately with the janitor? She carefully stayed out of sight. Mr. Bello stood with his head slightly lowered. His voice was respectful. "Sir, everything is ready." Mira's eyes widened. "Sir?" June answered quietly. "Thank you. The staff still doesn't know." "They don't need to." Mr. Bello nodded. "As you wish. I'll continue exactly as instructed." June gave a small smile. "I appreciate it." Mr. Bello bowed his head ever so slightly before walking away. Myra's heart pounded so loudly she was sure someone would hear it. She waited until the hallway was empty before stepping back. Her mind raced. Why would one of the most powerful men in the company call the janitor? "Sir?" Mira could barely breathe. She stayed hidden behind the corner until Mr. Bello disappeared into the elevator. Her hands felt cold. Her heart beat so fast that she could hear it in her ears. "Sir." The word kept repeating in her mind. Mr. Bello had not sounded confused. He had not been joking. He had spoken with complete respect. The same respect everyone in the company showed him. But why? June was still standing in the hallway. He looked around quietly, picked up his cleaning cart, and pushed it toward the lobby as if nothing unusual had happened. Mira waited another minute before walking out. She acted as though she had just come from the conference room. "Oh, you're still here," she said. June smiled. "I wanted to finish cleaning before going home." "You work too hard." He chuckled. "Someone has to." She wanted to ask him about Mr. Bello. She wanted to ask why a board member had called him sir. Instead, she swallowed the question. "Good night, June." "Good night, Miss Mira." As she walked away, she looked back one last time. June was carefully straightening a crooked painting on the wall. Even after everything she had seen, he was still paying attention to the smallest details. The following week flew by. The office grew busier each day. Everyone was preparing presentations for the annual company dinner. It was the one night every employee looked forward to. The event would celebrate the company's biggest achievements. There would be awards, speeches, music, and a grand dinner. The biggest rumor, however, was still the same. The owner is coming. Nobody could prove it. Nobody had ever seen him. But the excitement spread through every department. Some employees even bought new clothes weeks in advance. At lunch, Adam sat across from Mira. "You've been quiet lately." "I've just been busy." He smiled. "I don't believe you." She laughed softly. "Am I that easy to read? You've been staring into space all week." She hesitated. "Adam." "Yes. Do you trust everyone in this company?" He raised an eyebrow. "That's a strange question." "I know." Adam leaned back. "I trust people until they give me a reason not to." "What about people who keep secrets?" He smiled. "Everyone keeps secrets. Even you. Especially me." They both laughed. Then Adam noticed June walking past with a watering can. "You know," Adam said, "that man has never missed a single day of work." "Really? I've been here 6 years. I've never seen him complain. Never seen him argue. And never seen him late." Mira watched June carefully water each plant. Almost as if every plant mattered. Almost as if every life mattered. That Friday afternoon, something unexpected happened. The reception desk received a delivery. Not one package. Not two. Nearly 20 large gift boxes arrived. Each box was wrapped in elegant gold paper with dark blue ribbons. The receptionist looked confused. "Who are these for?" The delivery driver checked his list. "They're all for Mr. June." The lobby became silent. "For the janitor?" one employee whispered. The driver nodded. "Please have him sign here." People gathered around. Some exchanged puzzled looks. Others tried to peek inside the boxes. June walked over calmly. "Those are mine." The driver smiled politely. "Yes, sir." He handed June an electronic tablet. June signed his name with neat handwriting. The driver bowed slightly. "Have a wonderful evening." As soon as the delivery truck left, the whispers began. What could be inside? Maybe someone made a mistake. Who sends gifts to a cleaner? One worker laughed. Probably old clothes. Another nodded. Or cleaning supplies. Mira didn't laugh. She noticed something different. Every single box carried the same elegant silver logo. She had seen it before. But where? She searched her memory. Then it hit her. The logo was printed on the company's annual reports. It belonged to the parent corporation. The corporation that owned not only this building, but dozens of businesses across Africa and Asia. Before anyone could ask questions, a black van quietly arrived outside. 2 professionally dressed assistants stepped out. They loaded every gift box into the van with great care. One of them turned to June. "Everything has been prepared." June simply nodded. "Thank you." The assistants bowed respectfully before driving away. No one in the lobby spoke for several seconds. Finally, someone broke the silence. "Since when does a janitor have assistants?" No one had an answer. That evening, Mira stood by the bus stop outside the office. She wasn't waiting for the bus. She was waiting for June. A few minutes later, he walked out carrying only his small backpack. She smiled. "Heading home?" "Yes. I thought we could walk together." "I'd like that." They began walking down the quiet street. The setting sun painted the sky orange. For a while, neither of them spoke. Finally, Mira asked, "Can I ask you something?" "You can ask. You don't have to answer if you don't want to." He smiled. "Fair enough." She took a deep breath. "Who are you, really?" June stopped walking. For a brief moment, the smile disappeared from his face. Then he looked at the sunset before answering. "I'm someone who's still learning." Mira frowned. "That's not really an answer. It's the truest one I have." She sighed. "I keep seeing things that don't make sense. The phone, the board member, the deliveries, the people who treat you like." She stopped herself. "Like what?" June asked gently. "Like you're much more important than you pretend to be." June was silent for several seconds. Finally, he smiled again. "Miss Mira, sometimes people only see the uniform. They forget there's a person wearing it. Before she could respond, a sleek black car slowly pulled up beside them. The driver stepped out immediately. He bowed. "Sir, it's time." Mira froze. This time. There was no way she had imagined it. Mira stood motionless. The evening traffic seemed to disappear. The sounds of passing cars faded into the background. All she could hear were the driver's words. "Sir, it's time." The driver stood respectfully beside the black luxury car. Waiting. Not impatient. Not confused. Respectful. As though this was perfectly normal. Mira slowly turned toward June. For the first time since she had met him, she saw something different in his eyes. Not arrogance. Not pride. Just a quiet understanding that a moment he had hoped to avoid had finally arrived. The driver opened the rear door. June looked at Mira. "I'm sorry." She blinked. Sorry for what? For the confusion. Before she could ask another question, another car arrived. Then another. And another. 3 luxury vehicles stopped behind the first one. Men and women in expensive suits stepped out. Every one of them greeted June respectfully. Some bowed. Others shook his hand. One elderly man smiled warmly. "Sir, the board meeting was successful." Another said, "The preparations for next week are complete." Myra's eyes widened. Board meeting? Preparations? Sir? Nothing made sense anymore. June looked at her. For a moment, he seemed like he wanted to explain everything. Instead, he simply said, "We'll talk soon." Then he entered the car. The convoy drove away, leaving Mira standing alone beneath the orange evening sky. The next Monday, the office was filled with excitement. The annual company dinner was only 4 days away. Employees could barely focus. Every conversation eventually returned to the same topic. The owner is coming. I heard he's flying in from Korea. No, he's already in Nigeria. My cousin says he's a billionaire. I heard he owns hotels. Someone else added, I heard he owns half the companies in this city. Nobody knew the truth. But everyone had a theory. Mira sat quietly at her desk. She wasn't thinking about the owner. She was thinking about June. Oddly enough, June had not come to work all week. His cleaning cart remained untouched. His usual morning greeting was missing. The plants looked watered, but nobody had seen him. Even Adam noticed. Your friend isn't around. Mira looked up. He'll probably be back. Adam nodded. Maybe. But something in his voice suggested even he wasn't convinced. 3 days later, the company dinner finally arrived. The event was being held at one of Lagos' most luxurious hotels. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Golden lights reflected off polished floors. Live musicians played soft music. Waiters moved gracefully between tables. For many employees, it felt like stepping into another world. Mira arrived wearing a beautiful emerald green evening dress. She looked around in amazement. The decorations were stunning. The atmosphere felt magical. Adam approached in a tailored black tuxedo. You clean up nicely, he joked. Mira laughed. You too. Employees from every department filled the ballroom. Managers, architects, executives, board members. Everyone was there. Everyone except one person. June. As the evening progressed, awards were presented. Teams were recognized. Projects were celebrated. Then the host stepped onto the stage. The room became quiet. A smile spread across his face. Ladies and gentlemen. His voice echoed through the ballroom. Tonight is especially important. The audience leaned forward. As many of you know, our company was founded 20 years ago. Applause filled the room. The host continued. Most of you have never met the person who built this organization. A wave of whispers spread through the hall. Myra's heart began to race. Tonight, the host said dramatically, for the first time, our chairman and owner will join us in person. The room exploded with excitement. People straightened their jackets. Others adjusted their dresses. Some even pulled out their phones. Then the ballroom doors opened. Every eye turned toward the entrance. The room fell silent. Completely silent. A group of executives entered first. Then several board members. Then the hotel staff lined both sides of the entrance. And finally, a familiar figure stepped through the doorway. Myra's breath caught in her throat. Adam nearly dropped his glass. Several employees gasped aloud. One woman covered her mouth in shock. The man walking into the ballroom was wearing an elegant black suit. His posture was confident. His expression calm. No mop. No cleaning cart. No janitor uniform. Just quiet authority. It was June. The same June who cleaned their floors. The same June who watered their plants. The same June who ate simple lunches alone in the cafeteria. The same June everyone ignored. The host's voice echoed through the stunned ballroom. Please welcome our chairman, founder, and owner. He paused. A smile appeared. Mr. June Park. The room froze. For several seconds, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The shock was simply too great. Mira felt her heart pounding. Adam stared in disbelief. That's impossible. But it wasn't impossible. It was happening. Right before their eyes. Board members rose from their seats. Senior executives stood. Important guests stood. Then the entire ballroom stood in respect. Everyone except Mira. She was too shocked to move. June's eyes slowly scanned the crowd. Then they stopped. Directly on her. For a brief moment, the chairman of $1 billion company smiled. Not at the executives. Not at the board. Not at the investors. At Mira. The young architect who had greeted a janitor every morning. And in that moment, Mira realized something even more shocking than the fact that June owned the company. The look in his eyes said he had been searching for her the moment he entered the room. And what happened next would leave the entire ballroom speechless. Myra's heart pounded so hard she wondered if everyone around her could hear it. The ballroom remained silent. Hundreds of people stood on their feet, watching June. But June's eyes never left Mira. He smiled warmly, then gave a polite bow to the audience. Good evening, everyone. His voice was calm, just as it had always been. Only now, every word carried authority. It is a pleasure to finally meet all of you, properly. A few nervous laughs filled the room. I know many of you are surprised. You expected someone else. You expected an older man. Perhaps someone who arrived with many bodyguards. He smiled gently. But I have been with you all along. The room became quiet again. For the past year, I chose to work in this building as a janitor. Gasps spread across the ballroom. Some employees looked at one another in disbelief. Others lowered their heads in embarrassment. June continued. I wanted to understand my company from the ground up. I wanted to know how every employee was treated. Not just the executives. Not just the managers. But the cleaners. The security guards. The receptionists. Everyone. His words touched every heart in the room. I believe a company is only as strong as the way it treats the people who are rarely noticed. Several cleaners sitting near the back quietly wiped away tears. June looked around the room. I watched people every day. I watched who greeted others. I watched who ignored others. I watched who helped without expecting anything in return. Many employees could no longer look him in the eye. Then June smiled again. But I also met people who reminded me why I built this company. His gaze slowly returned to Mira. She felt her cheeks grow warm. She knew he was talking about her. After the speech, dinner was served. The ballroom slowly came back to life. People whispered from table to table. I can't believe it. He was cleaning our offices. I asked him to carry my boxes. I complained about the coffee machine in front of him. Adam shook his head. I've never been so shocked in my life. Mira smiled weakly. I'm still trying to believe it. Before Adam could reply, a young assistant approached their table. She smiled politely. Miss Mira. Yes. Chairman June would like to speak with you. Every head at the table turned toward her. Someone whispered. The chairman knows her? Another employee replied. They used to talk in the lobby. Adam smiled. I think you should go. Mira took a deep breath and followed the assistant. She found June standing on a quiet balcony overlooking the sparkling lights of Lagos. The night breeze gently moved his hair. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Mira broke the silence. So, he smiled. So, She folded her arms. You lied to me. His smile faded. I understand why you feel that way. You let me believe you were just the janitor. I did. Why? June looked out at the city. When I became chairman, everyone became careful around me. They agreed with everything I said. They smiled even when they didn't mean it. They treated me like a title. He sighed softly. I wanted someone to see me, not my position. Mira looked at him quietly. So you became a janitor. I became someone people usually ignore. He laughed softly. It was the best decision I ever made. Why? Because I met you. The words caught Mira completely off guard. She looked down, suddenly shy. You were the first person who greeted me every morning. You shared your umbrella. You ate lunch with me. You defended me when others were unkind. You never asked what I could give you. You simply treated me like a human being. Mira smiled. My mother always taught me that kindness costs nothing. Your mother raised an incredible woman. Silence settled between them again. This time it felt comfortable. Warm. Peaceful. A waiter arrived carrying 2 cups of tea. I thought you might like this, sir. June smiled. Thank you. He handed 1 cup to Mira. She laughed. You still drink tea instead of expensive wine? He smiled. I've always preferred tea. She shook her head. So the Billionaire is actually simple. I try to be. You still cook. Every Sunday. You still play the piano? When nobody is watching. She laughed. I was watching. I know. You heard that. I knew you were outside the door. She looked surprised. Then why didn't you stop? Because I hoped you'd stay. She looked at him. Really looked at him. Not as the quiet janitor. Not as the Billionaire chairman. Just as June. A kind man with gentle eyes and a peaceful smile. For the first time, she noticed how handsome he truly was. Not because of the tailored suit he now wore, but because kindness had always been the first thing she saw in him. Back inside the ballroom, Adam happened to glance toward the balcony. He smiled to himself. They look happy. An older board member standing beside him nodded knowingly. They've looked happy since the first week Chairman June started working as a janitor. Adam blinked. You knew. The board member chuckled. Of course. He spoke about Miss Mira often. Adam's eyes widened. He did. The older man smiled. He said she reminded him that genuine kindness still exists. Back on the balcony, the music from inside drifted into the cool night air. A slow instrumental melody began to play. June looked toward the ballroom, then back at Mira. He hesitated for the first time that evening. There is something I've wanted to ask you for months. Mira smiled nervously. What is it? He extended his hand toward her. Would you honor me with this dance? Mira looked at his outstretched hand. The same hand that had once held a mop. The same hand that had helped an elderly woman carry groceries. The same hand that had comforted a frightened child trapped in an elevator. Without another word, she placed her hand gently in his. As they stepped onto the dance floor together, conversations around the ballroom gradually faded. People stopped eating, stopped talking, stopped walking. Every eye turned toward the chairman and the young architect who had unknowingly won his heart long before she knew who he really was. And as the first notes of the music filled the room, June leaned in slightly and whispered something that made Myra's eyes fill with tears. I didn't fall in love with the architect, he said softly. I fell in love with the woman who said, "Good morning," when everyone else walked past me. The music faded, but neither of them moved. The ballroom was still filled with people, yet it felt as though they were the only two there. June looked into Myra's eyes. There is something else I need to tell you. She smiled nervously. What is it? He took a slow breath. I love you. The words were simple, quiet, honest. There were no dramatic speeches. No grand performance. Just the truth. I think I started falling in love with you the day you carried that heavy box with me, he continued. You never asked what position I had. You never cared about my money. You simply cared about me. Myra's eyes filled with tears. She had dreamed of hearing words like these one day. But not like this. Not from the chairman of the company. She lowered her eyes. June. I don't expect you to answer tonight, he said gently. I only wanted you to know how I feel. She nodded slowly. I care about you too. Hope appeared in his eyes. But his smile faded slightly. I can't accept. He looked surprised. May I ask why? Mira swallowed. If I say yes today, everyone will think I only accepted you because you're the chairman. They'll think I'm chasing your money. They'll think every promotion I ever receive is because of you. She shook her head. I've worked too hard to build my name. I don't want people to question my integrity. June listened quietly without interrupting. I want people to respect me because of my work, not because of the man standing beside me. A gentle smile slowly returned to his face. I understand. She looked at him in surprise. You do. Completely. You deserve to be known for your talent. Not because of me. There was no disappointment in his voice. Only admiration. I'll wait. She blinked. You'll wait. As long as it takes. The following Monday, the office buzzed with gossip. Everyone was still talking about the annual dinner. Some employees suddenly became unusually friendly toward June. Others felt embarrassed about how they had treated him. Nothing about June changed. He now worked from the executive floor, but he still greeted the cleaners by name. He still thanked the security guards. He still stopped to water the plants whenever he walked through the lobby. One morning, Mira entered the building and nearly laughed. June was adjusting a crooked picture frame. She folded her arms. You really can't stop fixing things, can you? He grinned. Old habits. They laughed together. Their friendship continued exactly as before. There were no expensive gifts. No special treatment. No secret vacations. Sometimes they had coffee after work. Sometimes they walked through a nearby park. Sometimes they simply talked for hours. Weeks turned into months. June never pressured her. Not once. He never asked, have you changed your mind? Instead, he showed her the same kindness every single day. He remembered her favorite tea. He encouraged her before important presentations. He celebrated her successes. And when she made mistakes, he reminded her that everyone was still learning. Little by little, Mira realized she wasn't falling in love with the chairman. She was falling in love with the same humble man who had once carried a mop through the lobby. 6 months later, the company announced its biggest architectural competition. Every architect was invited to submit a design for a landmark community center. The winner would lead the project. The judging process was anonymous. No names. Only project numbers. Even June was not allowed to know whose design belonged to whom until the judges finished scoring. For 3 weeks, Mira worked harder than she ever had. Some nights she stayed in the office until midnight. Other nights she worked from home. Adam often brought her coffee. You've become a machine, he joked. She laughed. I just want my work to speak for itself. Finally, judging day arrived. A panel of 5 independent architects reviewed every design. The scores were sealed. When the results were announced, the entire company gathered in the auditorium. The head judge smiled. The winning design received the highest score from every single judge. Applause filled the room. The winner is... He opened the envelope. Project number 17. A screen lit up. Designer, Mira Adeyemi. The room erupted in applause. Adam jumped to his feet. I knew it. Mira covered her mouth in shock. She hadn't expected to win. The judges praised her creativity, attention to detail, and practical vision. Only after the judging process was completely finished did June step onto the stage. He smiled proudly. Ladies and gentlemen, today's result proves something important. He looked at Mira. This project was chosen before anyone knew who created it. He turned back to the audience. Talent should always come before titles. The audience applauded again. Then he made another announcement. Based on this achievement, and after recommendations from the Independent Review Committee and the Executive Board, I am pleased to appoint Architect Mira as our new senior project lead for the community landmark development. The applause grew even louder. June deliberately held up the signed evaluation reports from the independent judges. I want everyone to see that this decision was earned. No favoritism. No special treatment. Only excellence. Many employees nodded in agreement. Even those who had once doubted Myra's abilities now applauded sincerely. After the ceremony, Adam walked over with a huge smile. You did it. Mira laughed through happy tears. I really did. Just then, June approached. He stopped a respectful distance away. Congratulations, senior project lead. She smiled. Thank you, Chairman. He chuckled. Chairman. She teased, we're at work. He nodded with a grin. Fair enough. As they stood there smiling at each other, Adam quietly slipped away, giving them a moment alone. June looked at Mira. Now, if anyone ever says you succeeded because of me. He gestured toward the judge's reports. You'll have all the proof you need that you earned every bit of this on your own. Myra's eyes became misty again. In that moment, she realized something she had not fully understood before. June hadn't just waited for her heart. He had protected her reputation, her dreams, and the career she had worked so hard to build. And that made her love him even more. A few days after Myra's promotion, the excitement in the office slowly settled. People stopped whispering. Instead, they started talking about her incredible design, her leadership, and the new community project she would oversee. Exactly what Mira had hoped for. One evening, after everyone had left the office, Mira walked through the quiet lobby. She smiled as she looked at the shiny floors. So many memories started here, she whispered. Yes, they did. She turned around. June stood near the entrance, dressed in a simple white shirt and black trousers. No expensive suit. No security team. Just June. The lobby feels different now, Mira said. June smiled. It does. And I miss seeing you with your mop. He laughed. I never thought anyone would say that. She walked closer. I wasn't talking about the mop. I was talking about the man holding it. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was peaceful. June looked into her eyes. Would you like to take a walk? I'd love to. They left the building together and walked to the small park nearby. The evening sky was painted with beautiful shades of orange and purple. Children laughed as they played nearby. An elderly couple walked hand in hand. The gentle breeze made everything feel calm. June stopped beside a quiet lake. Mira. She looked at him. When I told you I loved you 6 months ago, you asked me to wait. I did. I'm glad you did. She looked surprised. You are. He nodded. If you had said yes immediately, people would always question your heart. But now, they've seen your hard work. They've seen your integrity. And they know exactly who you are. Mira smiled. I've been thinking a lot these past months. So have I. She took a deep breath. I finally understand something. What is it? I wasn't afraid of loving you. I was afraid of losing myself. June gently shook his head. And you never did. You became even stronger. Tears filled her eyes. She reached into her handbag and pulled out something carefully wrapped in brown paper. I have something for you. June opened it slowly. Inside was the old name tag that once read, June. He stared at it in surprise. I asked the facilities manager if I could keep it. You kept my name tag? She nodded. Because this is the June I fell in love with. Not Chairman Park. Not the billionaire. Not the owner. The man who smiled at strangers. The man who carried groceries for an old woman. The man who comforted a frightened little girl. The man who treated everyone with kindness. June's eyes became watery. In all my years of receiving expensive gifts, nothing has ever touched my heart like this. Mira smiled. You asked me once to see the person behind the uniform. I did. I want you to know. I always will. She stepped closer. June. He looked at her hopefully. I love you. The words were soft. But they carried everything she had been feeling for months. I don't love you because you're the chairman. I don't love you because you're wealthy. I love you because even when nobody was watching, you chose kindness. A tear rolled down June's cheek. He smiled through it. I've waited a long time to hear those words. She laughed. I know. And I think you've waited long enough. Before he could say anything else, she gently took his hand. This time, I'm the one asking. He looked confused. Asking what? She smiled brightly. Will you let me spend the rest of my life getting to know the real June? His face lit up with the happiest smile she had ever seen. I thought you'd never ask. They both laughed. Under the soft evening sky, June gently held her hands. "I promise I'll never stop respecting your dreams." "And I promise," Mira replied, "I'll never let your title make me forget your heart." He leaned forward and gently kissed her forehead. It wasn't a grand moment meant for the world. It was quiet, warm, sincere, just like the love they had built. Months later, the company celebrated the opening of the new community center designed by Mira. Children ran through the gardens. Families filled the halls. The building stood as a symbol of hope, creativity, and compassion. As guests admired the architecture, they noticed two names engraved on a small dedication plaque. Lead architect, Mira Adeyemi. Chairman, June Park. Not because one had completed the other, but because they had inspired each other to become the best versions of themselves. Years later, employees still told the story of the chairman who once carried a mop and the architect who greeted him with kindness when everyone else walked past. It reminded every new employee that greatness does not always wear an expensive suit. Sometimes it wears a simple uniform. And sometimes the greatest love begins with nothing more than a sincere "Good morning." Lesson: never judge a person's worth by their job, clothes, or position. True character is revealed through kindness, humility, and respect for others. The people we overlook today may change our lives tomorrow, and the greatest relationships are built not on wealth or status, but on trust, patience, and genuine love. Hey besties, if you enjoyed this story, please like, share with friends and loved ones, and subscribe for more amazing stories to come.